All right, chat, we are here interviewing a friend of mine that beat Theomine the First. This interview is going to be based on interviewing the player, what kind of builds that she does and why, what kind of classes, if she has any other additional roster, all these things together so that you guys have good reference points. So her name's DevilRyung. She was part of our group for Theomine the First race. And at the same time, she is the first person who got all of Transcendence.
안녕하세요. 엉모닉 하고 있는 데빌령이라고 합니다. 저 로아는 오픈할 때부터 계속 했고요.
진짜요?
네.
5년 전?
네. 그냥
Really?
진짜 그냥 오픈할 때부터 해서 계속하고 있어요. 그래서 처음에 했던 게 대마거든요. 그리고 나중에 그 당시 신캐릭터가 창술사 나왔고 그 다음이 데모닉이랑 블레이드 나왔거든요. 근데 이제 그때 데모닉을 만들었었어요.
오케이.
신캐로 나왔을 때. 근데 캐릭터가 너무 예쁘잖아.
네.
그래서 얘가 모으게 됨.
오케이.
근데 일단
오케이.
억제는 다른 캐릭에 비해서 좀 사람다운 구간이 되려면 얘는 일단 1620이 시작이거든요? 1620에 엘릭서가 있어야 사람 구실을 해요.
오케이.
사실
그리고요?
그렇게 난 추천해주고 싶지는 않은데 좋은 말이 좀 안 나오기가 힘든 캐릭이라서 그러니까 그렇게 추천해주고 싶지는 않아. 알버트님도 해봐서 알잖아.
So she said that I play ShadowHunter II, saying like I play it too, so you kind of know why. I mean I kind of know why, okay? Like I kind of know why. But I mean I do like the character. 그래도 하는 이유가 있을 거 아니야.
예쁘잖아.
And then I asked her, I mean there should be a reason why you play this class, and then she said it's pretty.
제가 충동을 안 했던 이유가 변신을 하면 제 캐릭터가 안 보여요. 그래서 제가 충동을 안 해봤어요.
So we are going to spend a little bit of time to explain her build, and at the same time later on, she says she has some video clips too of how she dealt with Theomine the First race with the class that she plays.
일단 기본적으로 이양몽 4지배를 써요. 노각지배인데 요거가 써야 제일 세요, 얘는. 그리고 각인은 고점으로 나중에 세팅을 할 거면 요게 제일 세요, 얘는. 근데 저는 리버스로 돌이 깎여서 저는 이렇게 안 나와요. 이게 가장 타대형문이 기준으로는 제일 센 세팅입니다.
So she has the Adrenaline Cursed Doll Stone, so she can't really use it. But she, for those of you who are looking, a dream of having the best build, right? So that would be the ceiling. But this is the build that she has right now in terms of engraving. This build, you use Conviction Judgment, and then you use your Awakening to activate Dominion, and then you reset your Dominion as it goes, and then you spam a lot of skills because you have high swiftness to cover up that cooldown. So this particular build is what most people are technically using. It does deliver the most DPS in terms of PS. The fight itself is pretty reliable.
단지 심판이 좀 귀찮긴 한데 궁극기 키고 피아노거든요? 캐릭터 메커니즘 자체는?
네,
그냥
piano
쉬지
skills.
않고 때리면은 잘 맞을 것 같긴 해요. 저는 캐릭터가 빠르고 좀 피아노를 좋아해서 일리아칸 때부터 백어택에 대한 열받음이 지워지질 않아서 갖다 버릴 수 있어가지고 버린 거거든요. 저는 타대로 바꾸니까 많이 만족하는 편이긴 함.
She played 6 Nightmare build with the full swiftness during our Theomine first race because you didn't have enough Awakening to keep up with the long fight that we need to do for Gate 4.
그래서 원래는 시작하기 전에 이렇게 악셀을 바꾸고 각성 3으로 바뀌거든요.
네.
그래서 각성 3 쓰고 궁을 쓴 다음에 다시 악셀을 바꿔 끼고 이렇게 출발을 해요, 레이드를. 근데 저희 그때 처음 했을 때는 각성기 횟수가 부족했거든요. 그래서 부족해가지고 그때는 못 썼어요. 이학사지를 한번 쓰려고 했는데 한 4분 정도 비어요. 그래서 이거를 아무리 땡겨도 그러니까 이게 그때는 좁힐 수가 없었어. 우리 막 0초에 막 오관문 가고 이랬잖아. 유광문 끼고 그리고 유광문 바꾸면 어쨌든 단죄랑 심판이 빠지거든요.
네.
필요가 없어요. 유광용이면 끌말아서 여기에 압도 또 들어가서 무력화 챙기고 그렇게 갔었죠. 그 당시엔. 근데 지금은 각성기도 늘어났고 딜이 많이 세져서 각성기에 요거 그냥 똑같이 써요 이제는. 대신 무력화 조금 해줘가 돼요.
이걸로
무력화가 예전에는 궁극기까지 쓰면서 이렇게 무력화 도와줬는데 어차피 지금은 무력 수치도 많이 낮아졌으니까 전보다는 무력은 좀 낮아지긴 했어요.
So she doesn't care as much about like the high numbers, etc. She cares about the play style more because that's what most people do. Actually, most of the people around me actually care about those more.
숫자 자체가 진짜 너무 많으니까 데미지는 사실상 못 보고 뜨는 거는 지금 혼자라서 100만이 뜨는데
네.
옆에 허수아비 딜은 보면은 얘는 허수아비랑 실전 딜이랑 그렇게 큰 차이가 안 나요.
So another thing is obviously the numbers are pretty small, so you don't see a big change compared to like let's say the big number classes. As you see on the like right side, the DPS potential, it's the Trixian parsing in a real battle too. It's pretty similar. The cycle of this particular character is also Hitmaster. It's kind of easy to land most of her skills as well. So there's that beneficial factor too.
고점 세팅이 저걸 하면 한 3,800 나올 거예요. 그리고 실전이 좀 더 세져요. 어쨌든 얘는 치명타가 많이 부족한 캐릭터라 극신속이라서 치명 들어가면 좀 딜이 많이 세지긴 해요.
The value of what she wanted to say for those of you who are thinking of playing it, it's consistent and the DPS of itself is not as low as you think because some people think it actually doesn't do as much. So let's talk about the skills that she uses instead because you don't have to talk too because you don't need to go too far into it because you guys have community guides.
우선은 얘는 이동기가 없어요. 암살자인데.
Okay. So
이동기가 없는 게 좀 단점이 될 수도 있긴 해요.
the ShadowHunter does have a really top tier movement skill called Demonic Slash. It's pretty good. But you can't use this skill if you're playing the Hitmaster version of the PS. So to into simplest terms, her goal is to use the 3 normal skills because the class engraving gives you additional damage to normal skills, which is Grind Chain, Crow Cutter, and Spinning Weapon. So the other 5 skills, their existence is to help to rotate the normal skills as fast as it can without any leaking issue of identity gauge or like anything else that is good to give penalties for. So for Howling is at level 7. She uses it for the synergy and the meter gain skill, which you have the Wealth Rune, as you see. And for Grind Chain, she has this is the one of the main DPS skills she uses that has Gale Wind in it. So the Crew Cutter is also another major DPS skill that she has, as we explained. And the Genocide would be the meter gain skill too. And she uses tripods to have a super armor, and then you have the meter gain tripod with the highest Wealth Rune too.
얘도 풍요 3개 들어가요.
네, 그러네요.
얘도 수급이 애초에 특화가 없어서 수급이 안 돼가지고.
So continuing Genocide, I asked about Wealth Runes in general. So Genocide has the shortest cooldown and with the highest gain, therefore you added the highest Wealth Rune. And going over on top of that, going over some of the Wealth skin, this Decimate skill can be used as DPS, but she converted into meter gain because since you go full swiftness and there's not much spec to have additional meter gain to use meter spending skills, she needed to convert that a meter gain version for it for Decimate. So for Pierce Thorn, she uses it as a sub DPS skill. It does decent amount of DPS, but not as high as the normal spender skills that she uses. It also has that crit tripod too, so I'm pretty sure maybe because of that crit tripod, it does a little bit more.
예. 이거는 수급 안 되고 딜 늘어나는 거.
Right, so she has it tripod on the middle to have the skill not generate meter, but does more damage instead. Since you have 3 meter gain skills already, Pierce Thorn can be used as DPS, therefore you can utilize the tripod to push a little bit more damage on top of it. And you also she talked about Rising Call a little bit too, used as a counter, and that one can also generate some meter for the class.
얘도 카운터가 되는데 저는 개인적으로 그러니까 얘가 일반 스킬이라 딜 올리고 싶어서 이렇게 쓰는 사람도 있긴 한데 전 개인적으로 그냥 요게 더 좋은 것 같아요. 잠식 수급 좋고 카운터 판정 엄청 좋고 무력화도 좋고 부파도 있고 비교 대상 자체가 안 돼. 딜 차이도 그렇게 크게는 안 나요. 요거랑 요거랑.
So I asked her about Conviction Judgment as well, as most people would have a question about. So there's two choices. Well, she has it here right now, which is Rising Claw and Cruel Cutter. For this one, the downside of Rising Claw Cruel Cutter is it might not pop. Like the Conviction Judgment might not pop at the right time. So that could be a little bit smudge, right? But instead, if you want the Conviction Judgment to pop 100% of the time, you can use Grind Chain and Spinning Weapon. That pops the Conviction Judgment 100% of the time because the amount of hits that you do is very, very high. However, as she's shown on the Grind Chain skill itself, the difference between Gale Wind and no Gale Wind is pretty high for her. Since you can't cancel that skill with spacebar, it's too risky to have it a little bit slower. Like having it faster makes it more comfortable play, and there's less risk because if your animation is faster and more concise, you have more time to dodge things too, correct? So those are the stuff that she finds it really important. Therefore, the way how she used Conviction Judgment is the way as follows: the Rising Claw and Cruel Cutter. But there's also an option, if you don't mind a little bit of slowness, you can switch it to the other one to not worry about Conviction and Judgment.
라이징 클로랑 크로우 커터는 모션 자체가 간단해서 뭘 껴도 그러니까 질풍 안 써도 좀 간결해서 괜찮은데.
Oh, so for example, like Rising Claw, the Conviction very often, but sometimes Cruel Cutter doesn't activate the Judgment. And that one, you have to wait until the next cycle to activate it again. So there's that kind of iffiness. There's that stress point there, but
일단 멸화가 좀 많이 들어가는 캐릭이요. 5개.
5 damage gems.
그리고 6개 홍염. 충은 2개만 있으면 되잖아.
그렇죠. DI only needs 2, but this one needs 5 damage gems. Sheesh. So as for gems, basically 3 skills, the 3 normal skills that is very important for her. You added the cooldown and damage gem, and the next skill on the list is Pierce Thorn, so she gives a cooldown and damage gem on that too. And then afterwards, the next skill is Decimate, that does most damage, so she gives the cooldown and damage gem on that one as well. And as for like Demon Clone and Rising Claw, the cooldown itself is pretty short because of the relic set bonus for Dominion, so you don't have to worry about giving gems to those 2 skills. So instead, for longer cooldown, which is Howling, she gives the cooldown gem on there, so all the cycle kind of line up accordingly. So answering the question the chat asked was, how do you manage the Conviction Judgment for this particular class, right? So Conviction Judgment, I don't usually do it. I never do it either, so I was kind of confused about. So what's important is you need to refresh the Dominion buff every time. So you're using the Awakening. So based on her swiftness, which is 1833, she gets about 3 to 4 second empty time. So like for 3 to 4 seconds, you have you're DPSing without the Dominion buff. So what's important here is since you have 3 to 4 seconds left, you can keep using your Conviction Judgment until you have about 30 seconds left within the Awakening. So you kind of look at your Awakening, right? And then when you have about like 30 seconds-ish, you can pop your Conviction Judgment whenever you want, because the internal cooldown for Conviction Judgment is 30 seconds. So therefore, as long as the Awakening is above 30 seconds, you can use it. And when it's under 30 seconds, what you do is you don't pop Conviction Judgment on purpose by like, for example, not using Rising Claw and making sure you use the Cruel Cutter. She uses, like, let's say the Cruel Cutter first, because if you lock your Cruel Cutter skill, you're losing DPS, correct? So you're using Cruel Cutter first, let's say, and then you use Rising Claw a little bit after to make sure that the Conviction Judgment doesn't pop. And when you have, like, let's say 5 seconds left or so, that's when your Dominion runs out, and then you're waiting until the next Awakening comes out. You don't pop your Conviction Judgment on purpose on the Rising Claw, and since the cooldown of these two skills are fast enough because you're full swiftness, you don't use Cruel Cutter for just a little bit, and then you wait until the next second when your Awakening's up. For example, since the Conviction Judgment time is 5 seconds, let's say you have 3 seconds left on your Awakening, you can pop it anytime within that, and then use Awakening after you recognize the Conviction Judgment buff has been there. And which it also adds into a point where if you have Conviction Judgment on, let's say, Grind Chain and Spinning Weapon, she has said that if you have that, that's 2 major skills being locked up around the Dominion time. So if you have it on Rising Claw and Cruel Cutter instead, now that is another advantageous thing versus the one or the other, because you're locking only 1 skill versus you're locking 2 skills at that specific time frame. Because since you're a swiftness class, you need to spam as much skills as you can to do the maximum potential, correct? This is also another reason why she has the Conviction Judgment on the Rising Claw and the Cruel Cutter, to make sure the management of Conviction Judgment is much easier. So this is a demo fight of how this class fights at the latest Guardian raid, which is the 1630 Guardian raid. This is where all the big strong boys fight.
No.
Oh, 이미 썼구나. Oh, so since she already used the Awakening, she has the Dominion buff in place. So this is basically her cycle, where she just pianos all the skills. And again, the biggest benefit of this particular Hitmaster build is you don't have to worry about doing back attacks. So she's spamming all the skills, the normal skills, and then she makes sure she uses the purple skills to gain meter. Look at that. All the cooldowns. And as she mentioned earlier, she likes playing the piano skills because I guess it's reactionary. But some of you guys, I'm pretty sure, really enjoy playing spammy classes as well. I don't usually use spammy skills myself because my finger hurts. So for the question of she uses Piercing Thorn for meter, no, piercing is damage. So her meter skill is the Q, the Howling skill, Demon Clone R, and the Decimate, which is S. It's ranked by highest DPS, and also the other rank is by highest meter gain. And so basically the Pierce Thorn is damage. Rising Claw also gives a little bit of meter gain and the half stagger too. So you look at that. So she controlled her skills so that she can activate Conviction Judgment right away after her Dominion buff ran out. So if you're used to it, I guess you can be. But this is one of the main reasons why I don't play this class. Instead, I switched to DI because I tried this class myself too. But the Conviction Judgment was super stressful for me. But if you're used to it and if you don't mind with it, it's a pretty good option to do so. And as she wanted to mention, Rising Claw is a very good skill. That's a 4-second cooldown if you have the Dominion buff on. It's a very fast counter, and the judgment of that counter is actually really good. And it's also a 2-hit as well. And it has 2 destruction, and the stagger of it is pretty decent. So it covers some of the utilities that the class is lacking. So for this particular Guardian, if you counter him right now, this is the co-op counter. If you co-op counter, you also get the cooldown buff on this. So let's see how fast the cooldowns are. Oh, she died so fast. 너무 빨리 죽었어.
원래 금방 죽어요, 유진은.
Damn, this bat died so fast. Damn it. I was trying to explain that you got the cooldown buff. Let's see what she is, man. Is she MVP? MVP most damage? Damn! MVP 37%. Cruel Fighter. Holy. Strong. Just joins the party. It just gets MVP. Easy.
Easy.
But her, yeah. Easy?
Easy.
Okay. But then again, you remember what she explained before? It's super easy to do Trixian parsing with this particular class. You guys seen it do it, right? Because all you need to do is just spam the skills, and as long as it lands, it's okay. There we go. I'm in here too. Look, I'm right there, chat. I'm right here. This is the clear party video. So this is Theomine Gate 4, the old Theomine Gate 4, the hard mode, which is the race where we haven't cleared yet. And then she used the nightmare set for this because you can't use the 4 Dominion 2 nightmare set.
근데 얘는 일단 기본적으로 하려면 이동기도 없고 스페이스바 하나만 있어서 모든 패턴을 다 알아야 할 수 있어요.
So what she wanted to specify is, since this class doesn't have movement skill, right? It is very important to know all of the Theomine's pattern to play this class properly. Because since you only have spacebar for the maneuvering.
얘가 W 스킬이
네.
스페이스바로 안 끊겨서
네.
확실하게 쓸 수 있는 거 아니면 얘는 아예 스킬을 잠궈놨었거든요. 이 당시에는 안 썼어요 아예.
So it's also another point that she wanted to mention is the grind chain skill. You can't cancel it with spacebar. So in the early times when she was learning this raid, she kind of semi-locked the W skill, the grind chain skill, to make sure that she doesn't die.
카운터 엄청 좋아요. 확실히 카멘부터는 카운터가 좀 많이 중요한 곳이라서 그리고 내부도 좀 많이 좋긴 하거든요. 아직
okay.
나오진 않았지만.
So my question was, you guys don't have Theomine yet, right? But the point was, like, what are some of the cool stuff that the PS ShadowHunter has that other class might not have, right? And apparently her counter is really good, like a top of the line counter, because the counter is super important for Gate 4. If a class can't counter as well, you're actually destined to wipe a lot. And since the counter stuff is super short cooldown, and if he happens to do like crazy maneuvering counters, you can react to it really quickly. So look at that. So he does the counter there. But the judgment on the counter itself, you can just press it, and then you don't have to worry about it too much. So for example, when you go inside, you play with 2 people, and you always need to have a counter ready to go because Theomite can do a counter like immediately, and then if you miss it, you basically kind of wipe, right? But since this class, locking your counter, which is the F skill, the only bad thing is you're missing only a little bit of the DPS. That's it. Like, you don't have to worry too much about lacking your DPS for not rotating your counter skill like over and over. So you can kind of lock it up and use it whenever the counter pops up. So that kind of stuff is a huge advantage compared to classes where you have to rotate your counter more often. So at this point, she was doing 6 Nightmare because you can't do the other build, right? And 6 Nightmare, if you be on a Boundless Mana longer, the better, as you guys know. Because the longer you are in Boundless Mana, you do more DPS, right? So in this case, this particular clash mechanic, he's standing still. So if you are given more time on Boundless Mana, just spamming skills over and over and over, you get to push a lot of DPS. So these are some of the stuff that this class delivered in our team to make sure the Theomine is clearable. So as you see here, we switched it up that I go in instead. So she used to go, but look at this, look at her spamming all the skills to keep that Boundless Mana, and then you just keep spamming it to make sure that she keeps up her top DPS. Because that's what, but for the 6 Nightmare build, the longer you're in Boundless Mana, you do more DPS. And lastly, I do want to show her rotation for the stagger mechanic at Gate 5, because you just said this class does lack a little bit of stagger, but I wanted to show that if you have enough skills, if you have mastery in the class, you have no problem doing with it.
우리가 좀 빨리 만났으면
yeah, if we met,
하지 않았을까?
Yeah, she said if we met earlier, we would have cleared earlier, right, chat? Sucks. 지금 하면 다음 거 빨리 깨면 되잖아요.
다음 거?
네, 다음 거 나오면. 아닌가? 나 빼는 건가?
아이, 뭔 소리.
So look at that, chat. So this is her doing the stagger. Look at that. No break, stagger, and then the time stop at the end. So that's because she understands how her class operates, and then doing the stagger mechanic accordingly. Like, though these kind of stuff is more important, because if you have more stagger, it just basically the difficulty just decreases, but it's not impossible. So these are the stuff I kind of wanted to show you guys, and I think that is really good to cover, to give you guys some good reference of either choosing a class or having a different kind of like a positive feel about the path that you guys are taking in terms of like gameplay and etc. So that was the purpose of these kind of videos and these kind of interviews.
사람마다 그래도 재밌어하는 부분은 다르니까 성능도 성능인데 재밌는 거 하는 게 제일 좋은 것 같아요. 캐릭터가 이쁘면 일단 재밌음.
네, 네.
이거는 어쩔 수 없음. 일단 예뻐야 함.
To wrap up, she wanted to say, so basically fun is subjective, right? What you really want to do in this game, and if you find fun in terms of the playstyle, that should be the number one priority for you guys to enjoy the game. And at the same time, your character needs to be pretty in order for you to be happy about the game. So I think having a pretty character is the most important, as she says. Let's wrap up, boys. That was DevilRyung. Thank you guys, and bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.